Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling the absolute biggest threat to any shared living situation, splitting the bills. Look, if you've ever lived with roommates, you already know that money is the quickest way to ruin a perfectly good living arrangement. So we're going to jump right in and break down exactly how to let the math do the heavy lifting and, honestly, save your friendships in the process. Seriously, are you sick of your roommate mysteriously eating your food? Or maybe you're feeling just a little resentful that someone else is paying the exact same rent as you for the massive master bedroom? We've all been trapped in that passive-aggressive group chat about stolen oat milk or an inexplicably high electric bill. Well, it's time to fix it with objective, fail-proof systems. Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with the roommate money trap, look at fair ways to split rent, dividing up utility bills, the great grocery divide, how to handle late rent gracefully, and finally keeping the peace. Let's get right into it. Section 1. The roommate money trap and why equal splits fail. So here's the thing. Equal splits are rarely actually fair. Think about it. Unless your bedrooms are absolutely perfectly identical in every single way, an equal split means someone is losing out. If one roommate gets a 200 square foot master suite and the other gets a 100 square foot box, an even split means the person in the smaller room is literally subsidizing their roommate's upgrade every single month. Relying on a basic 50-50 split without looking at the details, it's just a slow-burning recipe for a roommate disaster. Moving on to Section 2, fair ways to split rent. This is all about putting math over emotion. When it comes down to splitting rent, you essentially have two main, genuinely fair options. You've got the room size split versus the income-based split. You either treat the arrangement like a business transaction based on physical space, which is perfect for standard roommate arrangements, or you adjust based on proportional salaries if you're actually sharing your financial life. That second one is ideal for couples or super close friends with joint financial goals. But let's look closer at that room size split, which is driven by the industry standard 40-60 rule. Here's the step-by-step to actually make it work. First, just grab a tape measure and measure the private bedroom spaces. Then you set aside 40% of the total rent to represent the common areas. You know, the living room, kitchen, all of that. And you split that 40% equally among everyone. Finally, you allocate the remaining 60% proportionally based strictly on those bedroom measurements you just took, and then adjust for any special amenities. Boom, it takes the emotion completely out of the equation. Now, speaking of special amenities, did you know an ensuite bathroom adds a 10 to 20% premium to a room's base value? It's a massive perk. By comparison, a private balcony might add a 5 to 10% premium, and a walk-in closet adds around 3 to 5%. Factoring these percentages in ensures that the person with the luxury setup is actually paying for what they're getting. All right, Section 3, dividing the utility bills. Let's talk water, power, and internet. So, you essentially have three routes here. You can divide equally, which is best for roommates with really similar habits. You can divide by usage, which only works if you can actually track exact energy or water consumption. But here's a highly practical tip. Divided by a fixed amount for specific edge cases. While utilities are usually split equally, let's say someone has a massive aquarium running pumps all day, or a roommate travels for work half the month. Agreeing on a fixed amount adjustment up front is actually the fairest route, and it stops that monthly bickering before it even begins. Next up is Section 4, the Great Grocery Divide, or how to stop food fights. The Homies app outlines these three distinct grocery systems based on trust and dietary habits. First, you have fully separate, where everyone buys and labels their own food. This requires the lowest trust and is best for wildly different diets. Then there's the fully shared approach, where you pool the budget and the fridge is just a free-for-all. Now, this requires the absolute highest trust and really similar eating habits. But right in the middle, and honestly often the most successful, is the hybrid system. That's where you evenly split staples like oil, eggs, and paper towels and keep the rest separate. You've got to pick your system based on how similar your diets actually are, not just on what sounds the easiest on day one. Now, if you do go with a hybrid system, which really is the sweet spot for most apartments, keep that shared list small. Stick to 10 to 15 items max, so you don't end up arguing about whether someone's expensive artisanal oat milk counts as a shared staple. And here's a crucial behavioral tip for you. If someone eats your labeled food late at night, name it directly the very first time it happens, using a calm, direct script. Please do not wait a month for it to fester and become a massive issue. Address it quickly and casually. Okay, Section 5, handling late rent and finding graceful solutions when things go wrong. The Money app log puts this perfectly. Do not treat it like a moral failure.
Treat it like a practical problem that needs a clear response. This is so vital. Staring at a half-cut cucumber in the kitchen while doing panicked mental math about your roommate's finances is incredibly stressful. You have to remove the emotion from it. A late payment once is just a problem. Repeated late payments, well, that's a system problem. But it's not a moral failure on their part, and it shouldn't be internalized as one. So how do you handle it practically? You have a direct conversation and ask these 3 specific questions. 1. When exactly can you pay? 2. Is this a one-off or something that might happen again? And 3. How do we handle it next time so there are no surprises? Having a direct conversation with these 3 specific questions prevents vague apologies and immediately establishes a concrete, actionable plan that puts everyone back on solid ground.
Finally, Section 6, keeping the peace and maintaining roommate harmony. Here are the absolute best practices we've gathered to maintain peace. First, draft a roommate agreement for financial ground rules right when you move in. Next, track everything with apps, things like Splitwise, Venmo, or FareShare, so the app does the math, not you. Set exact consequences for late payments and damage upfront. Also, never, ever use passive-aggressive sticky notes. Seriously, just don't do it. And finally, hold casual monthly check-in meetings to air out any friction. Ultimately, the goal is to use objective third-party apps and formal agreements to handle the rules, so you can just focus on being friends. Which brings us to a final question to leave you with today. Is your current roommate financial setup preserving your friendships, or is it slowly destroying them? Take a hard look at how you're splitting your shared expenses today, and ask yourself if it's finally time to let the math do the heavy lifting. Thanks for joining me on The Sixplainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.